So, you're lifting weights. At first, it feels easy, but as you keep going, each rep takes more effort until your muscles just can't do it anymore. The muscles in your arms that handle the lifting start failing. But why exactly do our muscles get tired? Most of the time, we blame lactic acid or running out of energy. But that's not the whole story. There's another big reason. It's about how well your muscles respond to signals from your brain. To get what causes muscle fatigue, we need to understand how muscles contract when they get a signal from the nerves. Those signals travel super fast from the brain to the muscles through long cells called motor neurons. Motor neurons and muscle cells are separated by a tiny gap, and particles exchanged across this gap cause a contraction. On one side, the motor neuron releases a chemical called acetylcholine. On the other side, charged particles, or ions, line up on the muscle cell membrane, potassium inside and sodium outside. When a signal comes from the brain, the motor neuron releases acetylcholine, which triggers pores in the muscle cell to open. Sodium rushes in, and potassium flows out. This ion exchange is a key step for muscle contraction. The shift in charge creates an electric signal called an action potential, which then triggers calcium stored inside the muscle to be released. That flood of calcium helps proteins in the muscle fibers latch onto each other tightly, making the muscle contract. The energy for this comes from a molecule called ATP, which also helps pump ions back across the membrane later to restore the sodium-potassium balance. This whole process repeats every time the muscle contracts. Every contraction uses up ATP, produces waste like lactic acid, and some ions drift away from the muscle cell membrane. But even though the muscle keeps using ATP, it often doesn't run out completely, even when it feels super tired. Even though a lot of the waste produced is acidic, tired muscles still manage to maintain a normal pH level, showing that the tissue is clearing out the waste effectively. Eventually, though, during repeated contractions, the muscle membrane might not have enough potassium, sodium, or calcium ions immediately available to restart the process properly. So, even if the brain sends a signal, the muscle cell can't create the action potential needed for contraction. Even though ions like sodium, potassium, or calcium might be depleted in the muscle area, they're still plentiful elsewhere in the body. They'll eventually flow back to where they're needed, sometimes with the help of active sodium-potassium pumps. That's why taking a break and resting helps relieve muscle fatigue, as these ions replenish in the muscle. As you exercise more regularly, it takes longer for muscle fatigue to set in. That's because as you get stronger, your muscles need fewer nerve signals from the brain to lift the same amount of weight. Fewer signals mean slower ion depletion. So, as you improve your physical fitness, you can keep exercising at the same intensity for longer periods. Plus, muscles grow with exercise, and bigger muscles have larger ATP stores and a higher capacity to clear waste, which pushes fatigue even further away.